What the Mum podcast. My name is Maria Newman and I will be your host. Every mum to be knows that as soon as she becomes a mum, her world will change forever. Everyone is keen to give you advice based on their own experiences. Other mums delight in sharing their horror stories so that new mums are better prepared for what might happen. The lack of sleep, feeling exhausted most of the time, living in bodies with even more wobbly bits and never having any privacy. But everyone's story is unique. Everyone's experience is personal. On this podcast, I will be sharing real stories told by mums like you and I about their experience of motherhood and how life changes when you become a mum. This podcast is about showing you that you're not alone. We may not be in the same boat, but we are experiencing a similar storm. I hope these stories will inspire you to do what you want, be who you want to be. Anything is possible if you really want it and if it is really important to you. If you want to find out more about me and who I am, check out my website, mummyinabreak.co.uk. However, for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast episode. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. During this podcast series, I will be interviewing 6 awesome women who will inspire you with their story of what I'm calling changing direction. My guest today is Vicky, who I met a couple of years ago through women's networking. I wanted her to be part of this series because Vicky has experienced so much change in her life and she is an awesome single mum raising 5 children. Through her story, you will see that life is what you make it. Restrictions and limitations will only stop you if you let them. Thanks for joining me today, Vicky.
My pleasure.
So, tell us your story. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, raising 5 children and relocating, how you got to where you are today.
Wow, we've probably not got long enough, but so right now, where I am today, I run my own business, which is creative communications, which is helping business owners with marketing and all sorts of things around that. I started that 3 years ago. And I have 4 children at home and a grown-up son who lives in Brighton at the moment, going back to London soon. We left him in London. And my kids are, let's go through that. I have to go, hold on, 7, 10, 14, 17, and my big boy is 28. So there's a big gap. So that's part of my mum's story is there. So I started young, just out of uni. And I never planned any of this. I never planned to have a big family. I always saw myself as a career woman. Every time when I was growing up, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go off and do this and that. And for some reason, this happened. I ended up with 5 children. And and 3 years ago, I've spent most of my I am a Bristolian, and I spent most of my adult life in London. And then 3 years ago, we moved back to Bristol, became a single mum, moved back with with 4 of them, started my business, and then a pandemic happened. So then they were all at home with me whilst I was running my business, and it's been quite a journey, quite stressful at times, quite overwhelming, and we've got through it. And the last year, I think, has been the biggest breakthrough I've had, probably in my life, actually, but definitely in recent years. If we go back to when I had my first son, I had him before any of my friends years before any of my friends had children. I was kind of like on my own. And it was a bit, when I found out I was pregnant, I was absolutely over the moon, but it was filled with loads of kind of like doubt as well, self-doubt, because I just finished uni. I was going to go off and do all sorts of things. And it was like, no one else was doing this. Everyone was building careers and going out and traveling. And I was going to be a mum. And I had to make the decision of like, can I do this? And I absolutely knew in my heart, I'm going to love this child, no matter, and that's basically what made me go ahead and just go, right, I'm going to have this baby. Oh my God, he was gorgeous. It would make me cry if I even talk about it because it's so long ago. biggest change that ever happened to me in my life. That first baby, I don't think anyone can prepare us for that first baby, no matter what age you are. I know women who've had their first babies much later in life, and they've had all those years by themselves or in a couple, and they've really wanted it, but oh my God, they're kind of quite shocked when it happens, because I mean, you know, just using the bathroom, having a shower, using the loo. So once you did it without a second thought, then you go, how do I do this with this baby? It's just, it changes everything.
It so does. And I think you're right. I think after the first, I mean, I've only got two, but just that, you know, life is going to change, and people tell you how life is going to change, but until you become a mum yourself, you really have no idea what change is going to happen in your life, because everybody's different. We're different as mums. Every child is different. And it's not until you become a mum and you start your journey of, I'm going to call it mumdom. I use
Mumdom.
that. I don't even know if that's a word. I could put that in the Urban Dictionary. Anyway, yeah. I digress. But it's not until you are doing it that you can really appreciate what life is now like and what a life change actually means, which is just, and everybody's is different. So although, you know, we all share our war stories, or you know, our lovely memories, but everybody's experience is different, and it's different with each child as well. But at least when you then have the next one, you go into it more with your eyes open, because you've already had that first experience.
Yeah, it's a bit more manageable. And I then had an 11-year gap before having my second one. So, I mean, if we're gonna, you know, be honest on here, I've been a single mum twice. So we moved to London when my son was young, and my relationship, a few years after my relationship with his dad ended, and I was on my own. And then when I met the dad of my other 4 children, I was so ready to have another one by then. I knew I wanted one more. And then we ended up with 4 more. And then that relationship ended. So, you know, and it was me making the decision each time. It's like, this isn't working for me. And I really give it a good go to make it work, and it didn't work. And so I move on. And it was very, very scary the second time, because I wasn't working. All my children were home educated in London. I wasn't working. I had to move out of the house we were in. We had to actually move out of London because we'd had quite cheap rent for all these years, and everything had changed in London, and we couldn't afford to stay in the area. So it was kind of a choice. Do we stay in London, Surrey, Brighton? And in the end, it's like, well, my family are in Bristol. It makes sense to come back to Bristol. So, and my children know the city as well from visiting. So then that was a really scary time, very stressful. Like, how on earth was I going to make this work? Just myself, 4 children. I'd chosen not to work. I'd actually wanted to. With my first son, I was at home with him for 3 years. Then I went to do an MA, and then went to work when he went to nursery. And with these 4, I was at home, I think, for 10 years. And I really wanted to be there in the early years. It was a real choice of mine. I thought, for me, that was really important to be. I think I went back to work when my second child was 9 months, and then it was and then I left work after the third one was born. So I was working for a couple of years then, and then I really, really wanted to stay at home with them all. And so it was putting them all in school. They'd never been in school. Starting my business. I had no business contacts in Bristol. Being back in a new city that I hadn't lived in since I was, you know, very early 20s, and just, you know, finding somewhere to live, finding the school, getting all those ducks in a row was just like, it was absolutely overwhelming. I didn't know how it was going to work. I was, at one point, had no idea how I was going to do it, how it's going to work. I was very clever that I found a coach actually to help me in another area of my life. But working with her just helped take away the overwhelm and actually break it down into manageable chunks and go, okay, don't worry about this bit. We need somewhere to live. Then we'll solve the next problem. And then we'll solve the next one. And it all worked magically in the end.
So you literally did sort of go from having it all together because you had your children with you, you weren't working, to then having to go, oh crap, I've actually got to go back to the beginning, but I've already got 4 children.
Yeah. It was like starting over again. I mean, being a single parent, that kind of, the thought of being a single parent with 4 children at home just terrified me. Like, how on earth am I going to do this? And it still surprises me that I've done it, and it's working. There's things going on in the world that are making it hard at the moment, like putting petrol in my car because the cost of living has risen. So there's definite challenges that I'm facing at the moment. Had that not happened, I'd be like, wow, this is great. I'm really making this work. So there's challenges, definitely. And there will always be challenges. So I kind of look at it this way. Okay, we are living in a particular time. Everyone's facing the same thing. There's going to be people who are going to be worse hit than others. And it's not, but I try not to I try not to kind of focus on any of that, because that kind of holds me back. And I have to be in kind of I always call it like creator mode. When I need things to happen and solve problems, find solutions and serve my clients and find new clients and create new products and services, I'm in creator mode basically. And that's where I find most of the magic happens. So I have to cut out all of the noise that doesn't actually benefit me, doesn't help in that space, to be able to, really do what I need to get done.
I think that's a really good way of looking at things. It's a very refreshing attitude, because I think as mums, there seems to be this inbuilt thing that just says we just have to get on with it. Whatever happens, we have to just move on from it, deal with it, because what is the alternative? And you're obviously an example of where life can change so drastically, and you're the one there that's the glue that's holding life together for you and your family. Therefore, you have to move on, you have to deal with it.
There's no choice. It's the things that have happened in my life. I lost a sister 8 years ago as well, and I was pregnant with my last born at the time, and she actually passed away on the day I was in labor, the day I gave birth to him. So they share that day together. And that was a really challenging period. She was ill throughout. From my 3rd pregnancy, I think she was ill. And so that was in the background of, having children and bringing them up. And then she passed away when Ziggy was born. And there was that challenge as well. And it was, I must say, that was probably the toughest time, more so than anything else. Yeah, you don't have a choice as a parent. You're like, I need to grieve, and I still need to bring up the children, and I've got this newborn baby, and I think that was the hardest period, and we got through it. And when I look back now, I really see like, wow, how on earth did we do that? But when I moving to Bristol and starting my business, that was a matter of like, okay, this has to work. There is no kind of like plan B here. There's no alternative. This has to work. And I think when you've got that mindset, you're driven by something, it works, because there's no it's non-negotiable, right? It's like, there isn't like, oh, this will be nice to have. This is paying for the roof over my head and the food on the table and petrol and the car and clothes and everything my children need. So it's like, I think that's a huge driver for me, and that's what made it work. But equally so, last year, post-pandemic, post everything I'd been through getting here and all the energy I'd put into sort of making it all work, I really crashed about this time last year, probably towards the August. And that was a real shock, that it was suddenly like, I couldn't do it. And I always thought I could, but then, and very quickly I knew that wasn't going to work, and that I had too much to lose, and I had to do something about it. So it was a matter of weeks before I contacted someone to work with them, to help me sort out whatever was going on in my head, whatever was happening there. And that was totally transformational. It was like, it not only sorted that out, it gave me more than I'd ever expected to be. And I'd really realized that before, I'd been in this kind of survival mode, this kind of strong, resilient woman who I can deal with anything, but it was very much from a space of survivor rather than thriving. And now I've cleared that. I'm into kind of like, I know it's not, I'm resilient and I can do anything, but it's not at a cost to my health and well-being anymore. It's kind of in a thriving space. It's quite hard to explain, because I can feel the difference, and I feel the difference in my language and in the way I approach everything in my life now. But yeah, I think as single parents especially, it's good to bring some awareness to that, because it's very easy to burn out. So you work really, really hard, get loads done, and then you crash, and then you pick yourself up and you do it again, and then you crash. And there's only so many times you can do that before it really starts affecting you.
I think there's two things in what you're saying. For me, mindset is everything, because there's a great quote that says, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right, which just shows the power of our thinking. You know, if we're thinking in a positive way, and like you said earlier, you know, if you're thinking in creator mode, then anything is possible, because that's your focus. Whereas if, you know, we're thinking of, well, the world out there is against me, the cost of living is really high, I'm never going to survive, I can't do this, then it has an impact on our mindset. So that's the one thing. And the second thing is self-care, which is an overused phrase, but oh my goodness, it is so important. So call it whatever you want to call it, but it's not a luxury, it's a must. Because if we're not looking after ourselves, we cannot look after the people we love. And it's exactly, I mean, I just said this when I recorded the previous episode, but it's exactly what the air stewards say when they're going through the safety talk. You know, we have to make sure we put on our own oxygen mask before we help anyone else, because if we cannot breathe, we cannot help anyone else. And that's same in life. If our batteries are empty, or, you know, if we're running on fumes, then at some point we will crash, and hopefully we'll be able to pick ourselves up. But what if you get to a point where it's actually too late, you know? That's so important.
Yeah, that's what I realized. It's like, actually, to make all this happen, to earn the money, to run my business, to look after my children, I need to put myself first, because I am the one that they're all depending on. It just suddenly kind of, it takes a long time, especially as we probably come from generations of women who put themselves last, and we take that on. And I can see it in my girls a little bit already, and I have to sort of teach them not to, because they've kind of picked that up from me. And then it kind of hit me one time. It was like, actually, I'd rather they had a mum. I think even if we all go without, I'd rather they had a mum than not. And I think they would. And that's the most important thing. So yeah, I've had to learn the hard way to look after myself and take care of myself. And I think what can be stressful, because you're right, there's especially a lot of people, is this kind of balance, isn't it? Let's getting balance. And it's like, there is no balance. So don't come with me with your balance wheel and try and get me to say, you know. So it's what works for me. It's like, okay, I've got 4 children. So even if it's like at 4 o'clock, they're all home, they've all had something to eat, they're watching TV, lie down for half an hour with a cup of tea. Even if it's just that a day, and that's all I do, I really notice that helps me, just that half hour before the evening, rather than just ploughing right through and, you know, getting to bed early, even if they're still up. Just go, right, well, I'm going to bed. Just go to your rooms. As long as you're in your rooms, the lights are off. We're all good. But just even, you know, I've realized how effective just really small things can help, rather than, you know, I think we always think, oh, I need a spa day, or I need a holiday, or I need, you know, the big things to find that balance. But actually little things will work as well. Even 10 minutes meditation will work, or a little bit of yoga, just something to get you out of your mind, out of your head, into sort of another sort of space.
I think you're completely right. It's having a routine that's not, that you don't see as a routine, because again, there are many words in the English language that have gone from just meaning something to having a really negative meaning, but it's having a routine that you just do, that is something that just keeps you going and that isn't seen as a chore. And, you know, I have a morning routine. Actually, before I get out of bed, there are like 4 things that I will do just to set me going ready for the day. But it is so important. And it is the small things, because the small things are, first of all, more doable. And it's that like daily maintenance, isn't it? I mean, you do, if your car is creaking, let's rewind back. If you're about to go on a journey, you want to make sure there's petrol in the car, that the battery's okay, that your tires aren't flat, that, you know, you might have like some water with you to go on your journey. And it's the same thing on a daily basis in your life. You're just doing that daily maintenance to make sure, am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Right, today can be okay then.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get stressed out about that, because there's so many books, aren't there? There's so much information. Morning routine, do this first, and I'm like, I've got to get the kids ready for school. But actually, once last year, when that was all cleared, I get up, I do, ideally, and I do this most days, some meditation, journaling, yoga before I even get myself ready, get all the kids ready, get myself ready. And that's absolutely sets me up for the day. And I'm still surprised sometimes that I can fit all that in the morning. And it doesn't feel stressful. It feels really lovely. I love doing sort of 10 minutes. And they're only 10 minutes meditation, 10 minutes yoga, really small things. But I notice, because I do it consistently, I notice the benefits that it has on me consistently. And I never thought I could fit all that in. I thought, I'm too busy, I've got too much to do, the kids. But actually, because I was telling myself that's what I was. But as soon as you start introducing those things and, like you say, build good habits, you can do them. And it always surprises me what we can actually create. What we're only stopping ourselves, aren't we, most of the time? I mean, I can sit here if I wanted to and run through all the reasons why life's hard. And it would be if I you know, but I won't do that anymore. It's like, that doesn't matter. We can, you know, we've got a lot in this country. We have, in the most parts, comfortable lives. And the more you appreciate and really see all of that, I think the more life becomes much easier.
Well, it's naturally where your focus goes, doesn't it? If you're thinking that life is rubbish, I haven't got enough time, I'm too busy, then guess what? Life will be rubbish. You won't have enough time and you will be too busy. Whereas if you just take a minute, and I know people are going, I haven't got a minute. Just take a minute to just pause and go, right, what do you want life to look like? Decide, make a conscious decision. And then, really simple, then go make it happen. And like we've already been saying, it doesn't mean grand gestures, making small changes to get you to where you want to go. But I think the problem is we all go, oh no, I want this wonderful life. And oh my goodness, that's really overwhelming. And I haven't got the money, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the resource. Therefore, I just won't bother. It's too difficult. I just won't do it. But it's like you said, it's consistency. It's the focus of, you know, I don't want a plan B. This is my plan A, and I'm focusing on plan A. And you'll be surprised at how quickly, not only do you start your journey to getting plan A, but how easy it actually feels when your mindset is in the right place.
And setting those goals as well. I think you something really important is about knowing what you want. I think in the past I was very much letting life happen to me. How I ended up with 5 children. None of that was planned, but you know, I went to university. I then had my baby, but then I worked and moved to London, worked in London. You know, you get your job, you pay your rent. I was on that kind of hamster wheel, and sort of you go out on the weekends, and didn't really realize back then, I wish I'd known this sooner, and my children definitely are going to know it, you can create your life. You absolutely can. And you don't have to know exactly, you know, that's a process as well. But having goals to work towards, creating the life that you want, knowing what you want in your life, and, you know, what you don't want, but not focusing on what you don't want, obviously, and moving towards it is so key. And I think I learned that very late, much later. I'd like to have learned that a lot earlier, but you know, the knowledge has come to me now, and I can create the life for my children. But also really noticing when you've got what you want, because sometimes we look around, we're going, there's something, and you're like, oh, I've got it. I was for ages going, oh, I want a bigger house, and then actually when I stopped and looked at my house, looked at the beautiful garden we've got, and I rent it, I don't own it, got a garage, you know, I've got parking, which is bloody luxury, and I realized, like, wow, we're all right. We've only got one bathroom, but we manage with one bathroom, even though there's, how many of us? 5 of us in here.
You're doing well. 1 bathroom, 5 of you. Amazing.
We had more in London, so there was definite a challenge. That and the lack of dishwasher. There were 2 things. But they don't matter. We manage fine. It's not an issue, because it's only an issue if you make it one. And I'm really, so when I stopped and really saw that actually I've got a really great space to live in, and we've got enough room for us all, then I stopped kind of chasing the other thing. So yeah, I think it's important to know when you've got it as well, because sometimes we don't see that.
We don't take the time. I'm just generalizing.
Yeah, all of us.
To just like stop and exactly do what you like, reflect. Because in life, you know, we will have overcome challenges. We will have had some great moments that we just for whatever reason, oh, it's happened, right, move on, next thing. But it's great to not dwell, but to go, you know, that thing happened, and I surprised myself. That showed me how strong I am and how I can get over things, so that when you get to the next challenge in your life, because it will happen, you know, life throws us curveballs, you know that you are capable of dealing with it. And also really like basking in the glory of those lovely moments, because life can seemingly be over in what seems like a second. So why wouldn't you, you know, relish those beautiful moments? Like last week, it was really funny. I was in the kitchen with my son and I'm cooking, and there was some music on the radio, and it just so happened to be a song that they played at Holiday Club, and they had their own little dance routine to it, and he's there like busting out the moves, and I'm like, oh my word, this is so cute. So I stopped cooking, and I'm like joining in, and I will remember that moment. Well, as long as my memory keeps, you know, it's all right.
You will. Kitchen discos.
I know, but it's just that moment. I was like, I can't believe, you know, I was just like, I need to stop now. This is really important.
Yeah. I think that's the challenge of being a single mum sometimes, is that being really aware, like, especially my youngest, like, I want to give him that time that I gave the others, and I do have to be mindful about that, of not going, I'm busy, of just going, yeah, let's do this, let's play snakes and ladders, let's go on a bike ride, or let's dance in the kitchen. I mean, there's nothing like my oldest son. Me and him used to have kitchen discos all the time, and we put on those, you know, some kind of anthem, some awful, and just sing along to it. Whenever I see him, it's just like, oh, I miss those times. So then I can have it with my children now. So me and the boys do it sometimes. I grab them, we dance around, and it is really special. We must remember to do those things, because we can all get sort of wrapped up, especially when we run our own businesses, right? Like really wrapped up and drawn into endless work, because I love what I do. I could do it all day long, but I have to remember, like, okay, I need to take a break, I need to do something else now, give time to the kids. And one thing you said that I just wanted to pick up on, about realizing you've got through things. I think I've really started doing that around money. Like each month, if I feel myself like that, not enough, or it's a period of, you know, because again, running my own business, it's not always guaranteed every month's going to be the same. That, oh, I've got this far, I've made it work every month, I've always paid the rent. What's to think that why would this month be any different to that? And I really remind myself of that, and that's really powerful. Actually, go, I've done it this far, haven't messed any of it up, doing really well. So yes, you can do it this month too, rather than go into that kind of natural period of panic.
There's no money, it won't come. Yeah.
Just go, oh no, yeah, no, I've done all right, it's going to be fine. It always works out. So yeah, I think that's really important, to really see what you've accomplished and know that you've got through it, and know you've always managed to work it out. Because then it's like, oh yeah, I'll work it out again. You can panic for like 5 minutes, but not stay there for too long. Sometimes we need that a little bit to kick us into action.
I think we do. We have to be able to like let it go. There's I can't remember the book now, but one of the recommendations the author says is you've got 5 minutes. It's the 5-minute rule. So there's like the 5-second rule, which is something different, and there's a 5-minute rule. So the 5-minute rule is when something happens that winds you up, you set a timer and you've got 5 minutes to just F and blind and whatever you need to do to let it go for 5 minutes. And all right, you might come to the end of the 5 minutes and still feel all wound up, but you are only allowed to give yourself 5 minutes. And then that's it. You've had your moment of being the victim and everything's rubbish. Make best use of that 5 minutes and then move on.
That's a really good idea. I really like that.
My present to you, Vicky.
Yes, thank you. I think I probably do. My car's been in the garage for 2 months and it broke down at the end of my birthday, on my birthday, right at the end of the day. And I had the next day, I did that. And then I went out for a walk, and then I came back and went, oh, it's gone now. I'm all right. Right. I've solved the problem on my walk. Walking solves all my problems. If I'm stuck, I go for a walk with whatever it is I'm dealing with, and the answers always come. Something about movement for me. And I solved it. So I had to have my moment of like, I can't believe it. And it's still in the garage. I still haven't got it back. It's up in Derby now. It's travelled up there. It's been at 2 garages so far.
It's all right.
Can't afford to put petrol in it anyway, so it's all fine.
So we've nearly come to the end of our episode, but I have one more question to you for you to answer. What's the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you about being a mum?
I think when my son was tiny, my first son, somebody was somewhere said to me, start as you mean to go on. And I remember thinking not much of it, but really it stayed with me. It's that if you introduce something, it's very hard to unintroduce it. So think carefully before, like I do this a lot with digital tech, with phones, iPads, gaming, with my boys, because once that's in their lives, there's no taking that away and going back. So you think very carefully about what you introduce, because once they've had it, they've had it. And same with food, or with kind of what they watch, what they consume. I'm very careful about them not playing games that are too much older than they are. And I know a lot of their friends do, but it's like, once you've done it, it's very hard. There's no going back to, okay, we're not playing those games. We're going to, so that always stayed with me, that just think about, do I want this in my life just yet? Do I want it in their life just yet? And we're all going to make mistakes, but if you can bring a little bit of conscious choice into it, I think it's that stayed with me.
That is great, because it's just so simple.
And
that's what we want, simple, not like somebody tells you something and you go, I have no idea what you've just told me.
And my advice, pick your battles.
Oh yes.
And don't meet a teenager on their if they're having a tantrum, don't meet them with a tantrum. It's like a 2-year-old again. Walk away. And
wouldn't just escalate
very quickly. It's much easier. My kid, we don't have big shouting matches, because I won't do it. They might try, but I won't do it. So
Mum says no.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. Vicky, I've loved talking to you. But before we go, please, if anyone has been listening, people will have been listening. If they've been listening and been thinking, I just want to be in Vicky's world. I want to know more about Vicky. How can they get in touch?
I think my Instagram is where it's my favorite social media to hang out on. And I am Vicky Creative, without an E at the end of creative, comms, which is a little bit complicated. That's who I am on there. And that's probably the best place to connect with me, because that's kind of work and life as well, rather than just worky stuff.
Well, thank you, Vicky, for talking to me today. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you. It's been real fun talking about being a mum.
You're most welcome. See you all next time. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast episode. And if you did, then of course, please share it with other mums. I have lots more resources for you that will help you on your journey through life. Just visit my website to access them, which is mummyonabreak.co.uk. You can also find out details about my book, Busy. Take care and see you the next time.